Hey, good evening, everybody. Peter Vexelman here. Sorry about that. Running a little bit behind. Trying to get my hair fixed, looking through Zoom, trying to get all the basics. Sorry, we're bouncing between the lake house, our main house here, and just got a little bit hung up. But anyway, it is Monday. It is Tuesday. It is Tuesday Night Live. I'm so glad you guys are here. Very excited. Julie will be joining me here shortly. We're going to talk some basics today. If you ever hear me talk about real estate in general, the biggest thing I hit on, literally the biggest thing I hit on is the basics. You know, I think people tend to overanalyze this business. I think people tend to overthink in this business. I think people tend to go too wide, meaning having too many things spinning in terms of different techniques they're trying, different strategies they're trying, all that kind of stuff. And I always tell people it's, you know, you figure out a couple basic things and then you just get very, very good about it. And that's what we're going to be sharing with you today. Sorry about that, I sneeze. So we're going to talk a little bit about the basics of real estate investing today. We're going to talk about paperwork today. I know it's not one of the cool, sexy things to talk about, but it's an important thing to know. It's an important thing to understand. When we get rolling here in a minute or so, I'm going to share with you guys a story where I literally thought, because I didn't understand paperwork when I got started, I thought like I was going to end up in jail. I'll share with you that story of how that all came about. But being brilliant at the basics, and that's the topic of tonight. You know, we're going to share with you how a contract can actually make or break a deal. We're going to share with you the important points to having a contract. And then we're actually, excuse me, we're going to walk through a real life contract with you guys. So you understand, you know, contracts are tools. You know, people don't understand sometimes that they think contracts are kind of like the necessary evil of the real estate investing business. And they're not, they're tools. And just like any tool, you can use it to your advantage or you could use it to your disadvantage. And contracts, when they're the right kind of contract to use, when they're used correctly, contract literally gives you an edge in this business. You know, you always hear me talk about it. You know, there are shortcuts. I talk about shortcuts all the time, shortcuts to success, you know, shortcuts to getting things done. And contract is not an evil thing. Contract is not one of those, you know, things to walk away from or to be scared about. Literally, contracts is a tool that'll give you an edge if you know how to correctly use it and execute it and all that. And we're going to get into that here in just a little bit. How you doing, Julie? You're on mute.
Rookie move. So, yeah, doing good. Sorry I'm late, guys. I was wrapping up a phone call and I've literally was on hold for an hour and 45 minutes and I was not giving up today.
That's crazy. I don't understand why all companies do not have one of those callback features, you know, hit one and we'll call you back. They're like, I've seen, well, remember when we were traveling a couple of weeks ago, our friend Ben, our partner with driven, he was on hold with Delta. How long?
Yeah, I think it was 7 hours.
I think it was 7 hours. That is crazy. Anyway, guys, my name is Peter Vexelman. The other side is Julie Muse. Julie and I have been together for over 10 years ago, building the real estate investment business. And that's what we are. We are real estate investors. We have done all kinds of things in real estate, all kinds of transactions, all kinds of techniques. But we also figured out what our lane is, what our strengths are. And we have absolutely, and I hate to say things like this, but I would say we've been hitting it out of the ballpark, strictly from being a real estate investors for many, many years. You know, Julie single-handedly ran the operation as the chief person in charge. should build out tons of infrastructure. I mean, I share this with people, not in a pompous way, but just kind of in a little bit in the credibility way. There were times when we were running our own investment company, we were having almost 1,000 seller calls a day. Can you imagine having, some of you guys are trying this business out, right? And you're like, how do I get the phone to ring? Can you imagine having the phone to ring 1,000 times? That creates different kinds of problems. So one kind of problem, not having your phone ring, but having your phone ring 1,000 times a day, that's a totally different set of issues. And that's
absolutely, because whenever a seller calls, you better pick up the phone, because that's money calling you. And that's a good piece of advice today. If you've ever got a seller calling you, keep up with your phone numbers, and whatever you do, never let it go to voicemail.
And the other thing, to expand upon what Julie said, you better have your ducks in a row, not just from a standpoint of picking up that call, but can you imagine the kind of deal flow you're going to have? And can you imagine the tools and resources you need? And this is going to go along with exactly what we're going to share with you today, more specifically, Julie. That contract's a tool. You better have the right kind of contract when you're talking to that many sellers and when you get deals going. And bottom line is, you better position yourself to win from the very beginning part of the real estate business, from the beginning part of the real estate deal. And that's what contract does. It positions you to win. It really does. Some people say, well, how is that possible? Well, we're going to get into that here in a minute. And you will see how literally the tool, the contract that we use, that we've been using for many, many years, even before we started partnering with people, it literally gives you an advantage. And it gives us and our partners an advantage as we put real estate deals together. But before we get into specifically discussing contracts, the advantages of contracts, how to correctly interpret them and how to read them and really what a contract's all about, I'd like to share a little bit about who Julie and I are, not only from a standpoint of real estate investors, but how do we even get here? Like, how is it that today, years ago, we would have our phone ring 1,000 times personally for us to do deals. Today, we don't have our phone ring at all looking for deals, but how is it that we're still knocking it out of the ballpark and doing deals? Well, it's because the model that we have, and our model is very simple. We do not chase our own deals. We work with partners, everyday people across the United States, and we invest our time, our money, our resources, our infrastructure, our things like contracts into our local partners, and we help them become successful. But in turn, by helping our partners become successful, we in turn become successful ourselves. And that's what the partner-driven model is all about. We here at Partner-Driven, we literally provide what we call are the pillars of success when it comes to real estate investing. And, I used to draw them out. There's a lot of things we do, but here's the three main ones. As I started focusing, what are the three main things we do? We do a lot. We provide like the back office and all this, but what are the three key elements that we provide to our partners? I think this is what they are. Number one, daily coaching, mentoring, accountability, instructions. So we over-deliver. I know we over-deliver when it comes to mentoring our partners and coaching our partners, because that is a key pillar of success. If you do not know what you're doing in the real estate investing business, you are going to be at a huge disadvantage, because tonight is all about advantages and disadvantages. A lack of knowledge not only will give you a disadvantage, but will potentially put you in a position where you'll never make anything happen in this business, and potentially put you in a position that I found myself in many years ago by not having the right knowledge. And not only did I not get anywhere, I literally went backwards. The second pillar we provide is we help with lead gen. It's very important in this business. It's not just knowing something. If you can't find the right deal, you're in trouble. And I can tell you, there's a lot of people out there that do real estate business that get to the point of doing one single deal. They never get to the point of even identifying a deal. Lead gen, marketing, finding the right deal is an art form. It literally is in real estate. And so not only do we teach our partners how to find amazing deals in their own marketplaces themselves, but we also literally have a proprietary CRM system that works on our partners' behalf and helps them identify potential motivated sellers in their marketplace. And the third pillar that we provide, which is very, very critical and very, very important, is we provide the capital to execute the deals. In today's marketplace, I could tell you the day, and I've been talking about this for like a month straight, but the days of like no money, no nothing, they're going away quickly. I mean, they're literally going away quickly. Whereas before there were some techniques and strategies that people utilized that, allowed them to get into deals like wholesaling, right? People talk about wholesaling. You don't need any money. That's just not true anymore. And a lot of times you got to double close. So anyway, the third piece that we provide is we provide capital, both short-term and a little bit longer term on the fix and flip. And then we put these properties in the market, sell them, and we split the profits down the middle, 50-50. And that is the partner-driven model. And it's interesting, I didn't even realize this, Julie. We weren't even called partner-driven until we started this model. It's like before then, we had a totally different company. It just hit me today. I'm like, gosh, I've been at this thing for 22 years, and we literally changed our company name. Now it's just so common because we say it all the time, but we weren't even called partner-driven years ago when we were doing our own deals. Anyway, so that's who we are, and that's what we do. By the way, if you're not a partner, if you're not on a team today, and what we just said sounds very like intriguing, I just kind of want to get this out of the way right away. There are some team members on standby today, and if somebody could put their phone number into chat, but we have a couple of team members on standby that could actually more elaborate on what the partner-driven model is all about. Some of you guys tonight here are like for the 10th time here, and you're like, I got to get in this thing. So the phone number to touch base with our team members is 770-746-8585. That's 770-746-8585. And we have some team members on standby that'll be more than happy to elaborate on what I just talked about and potentially get you started and be part of the team as far as doing deals together. All right, well, let's get going. What we're here to talk about today, I'll be honest with you, like from my perspective, I don't know anybody in like that ever got into real estate for one reason, and that is this. Man, there's a lot of contracts that fly back and forth. And I'm just trying to figure out I'm going to get in real estate because I love contracts. Okay. That doesn't happen, right? Anybody that loves contracts, they might get into the law industry, right? They might get into some admin work, but nobody ever says, I love paperwork. I love contracts. So let me choose the real estate investing business. Mm-hmm. Having said that, almost every single one of us that gets into the real estate business, that gets beyond the kind of just trying it, but gets to the point where we actually start doing it, 100% of us encounter this hurdle. And I say hurdle because really, if you think about it, we don't deal with too many contracts outside of this. Like when do you deal with a contract? Maybe if you buy a car, you get financing. When was the last time you read a financing contract, right? So before real estate, most of the time where most people like myself sign contracts, it was just like, you're buying something, you never even read these contracts. You never really understand what you're signing because they're a standard. You kind of knew, okay, I'm buying a car, I'm paying, $20,000, I'm going to pay $300 a month. They put these summary pages in them. And across the board, if you think about it, when was the last time you were involved in signing a contract? You buy a phone, a cell phone, sign maybe a 2-year contract. Have you ever read it? No. So when we get into real estate business, we encounter something that for many of us, we have never encountered before. Not the contract, but the fact that we better understand this contract. This is not a contract that you want to just kind of sign away. This is not a contract that you better just kind of like, I don't care if it says 30 days or 90 days, No, I don't care if, the owner of the property signed it or his son signed it, and he's going to just tell him about it. There are some mistakes that could be made in the contract that could be very detrimental to the real estate deal itself happening. Having said that, if you do understand contracts, and after today, I think most of you who've never seen us talk about contracts and never see us actually explain the contracts, after today, a number of you guys will see that it gives you an advantage. A contract literally gives you an advantage in a marketplace. Now, let me tell you a personal story of how I learned about contracts. And not that I learned, but how I was really exposed to it. And I don't know, do you know Cerwenka, Julie?
Oh, I do. And his lovely wife.
Yes. Well, when I met Mike, believe it or not, I don't know if you know this, but Mike actually precedes me. Is that the word, precedes me? Precedes me. He's been around this business longer than I have. And I've shared this story in front of Mike, so I'm sure he wants to share it. But Mike has actually been in the real estate. I think he's actually out of the industry right now. But Mike was a big time wholesaler when I got started 20 some years ago in real estate. And as a big time wholesaler, the one thing that happens, all the newbies get attracted to you, right? Because you don't really understand what being a big time wholesaler is. You just you look up to those guys and you're like, wow, he's moving a lot of inventory and all this. And I did exactly that. I started looking up to Mike. He didn't know who I was. I was following his deals and I didn't know much about a lot of things. But one day I put an offer on one of his deals, right? And remember, back then I knew nothing. Mike knew everything. Okay. I put an offer, it was all back then it was all flyer based. I kind of faxed them back, said, hey, I want to put a flyer on this deal. Next thing I know, through my fax, 5 minutes later, here comes the contract, right? And it had exactly what I said. I'll pay, I don't even know what I was paying, $50,000, $100,000 on it. And that was literally the only thing I looked at. Like, I said, I want to pay 50, and on this contract, Mike put down $50,000. But because I had no experience before then, I had already done a couple deals, but they were all with real estate agents. And that's another story unto itself, how I mismanaged those projects. But when I was working with real estate agents, it was just like standard contracts. There wasn't really, I just kind of felt like, well, at least they're licensed. They're probably not going to do anything bad to me. So Mike was like the first real life person I was dealing with to do a deal outside a real estate agent. And I didn't know anything about contracts, because even the ones that realtors provided me, they're like, hey, this is a state issued, you just go sign. And I'm like, okay, got it. And so I made an offer, and Mike faxes me a contract, pretty much all filled in. And the number was exactly what I said. And that's the only thing I looked at. Like, literally, I didn't understand anything about due diligence. I didn't understand about inspections. I just thought, hey, cool, we agreed on a number. And he asked me to fill in a couple things, and I did. Faxed it back to him. Kid you not, 5 minutes later, I got a contract fax back. I get a fax from Mike, and it literally says, I heard they serve good food in jail. Now I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, remember, I know nothing. Nothing.
Mike sent you that?
Mike literally sent me a piece of paper saying, I heard they serve good food in jail. And remember, I'm newbie. I don't know what's going on. All I know, and I'm falling in, right? Because when you don't know something, you fall into it, right? You fall into it strictly based upon respect. And I had respect for Mike. So if he said, I'm going to jail, I respect. I was like, I'm going to jail, right? Make a long story short, I just had filled out a couple things incorrectly in a contract, and he was messing with me. He was absolutely not kidding, but absolutely bullying me at that point, right? If you don't know how to correctly execute contracts, if you don't know how to correctly use contracts to your advantage, you will be bullied in this business. You will be bullied in this business because from the get-go, you're either at an advantage or you're at a disadvantage. When you start negotiating, if you ever heard me teach negotiating, it's all about just moving the needle towards you, moving the needle a little bit. Again, advantage or disadvantage. And make no mistake about it, contracts are exactly that. You're either going to be a disadvantage if you don't know how to correctly read it, interpret it, see any kind of, caveats in it. But if you do understand it, you can get a leg up literally from the get-go. Julie, are you going to actually walk people through the contract tonight?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. What Julie's going to share with you guys tonight is not only how to interpret it correctly, how to position yourself correctly with it, but she's going to share with you something that we've spent when you guys are going to look at this, you're like, what? I'm not kidding. We spend tens of thousands of dollars correctly getting the verbiage, and she'll explain to you in which areas.
For one paragraph.
It's crazy. But this one paragraph and it has no question made us millions of dollars. This one question, this one paragraph that we spent like $30,000 having a very high level attorneys write up has made literally millions and millions of dollars. So when you're sitting here tonight and you're like, oh, well, this is kind of boring. I'm telling you, it's not whether it's boring or not. It's whether or not you're going to use it to your advantage and make a lot of money with it and understand it, or whether somebody else is going to use a contract to their advantage and is going to put you at a huge, huge, huge disadvantage. I will tell you from a personal perspective, this is why I also love the partnering model, because when we're partnering with people, our office provides all this. Our office handles this. Our office is able to do this for you on your behalf. So when you're going to go see a seller, it's handed to you right on the platter, and all that. So I'm going to flip it over here to Julie, and Julie's going to walk you through this contract. But the key is, look at the big picture. This is an absolute pillar of success in real estate, understanding how to correctly utilize a contract. So without further ado, Julie, what you got for us?
Well, the one thing too that I want to add on this concept while I'm pulling this up for you guys, and this is our contract. So if you are a partner, you've got 100% availability to get this contract, and not to mention, all you got to do is email our office and we'll even fill it out for you. Okay. But on top of being bullied, here's the other thing. Sometimes a deal is a deal because of terms and not because of the money. Okay. So understanding a purchase contract too is, and knowing what you can take away or what you can add is truly important, because some things, if you take it out, then you're not legally doing something correctly. So I'm going to be going through that. We're going to be going through it line by line. Now, I'm going to share my screen. Guys, I'm going to take off my video here for a moment. It's just going to make my internet better. Can somebody give me a shout out and tell me, yes, you're seeing my screen? Pretty please. Okay, perfect. All right. So as you look at this contract here, guys, the purchase contract we use is only a page, 2 pages. Okay. So this is something I like, this particular contract, because it's really easy for a seller to understand this particular purchase contract, right? So that's why we use it. However, if you don't understand the contract yourself, how are you ever going to answer questions from the seller? Okay. So I'm going to go through this line by line tonight and explain to you every part of this contract. So hopefully, if you're ever caught in this situation, you will know exactly how to answer these questions. Okay. So from the very beginning, dated this blank day of blank 2021. So obviously here, what's today? The 24th. So dated the 24th day of, I'm just going to fill this in as we go. 24th day of August. And then here, if you are the buyer, okay, then the buyer goes here. If you are a partner at Partner Driven, our company goes here. But we're just going to name one, name a company here. So this is going to be whatever your LLC is under. You can put your personal name here, but guys, if you're going to be doing real estate transactions, I really suggest you get an LLC. It's not very hard to get one. So we'll just call this 123 LLC. Okay. Hereafter, and you're going to be putting the seller's information in here. Sorry, a piece of this contract is missing. No, it's not. Sorry. And whoever the sellers are. So let's say it's John and Anita Smith. Okay. And guys, I may type this. Obviously, I wouldn't send a seller out like this. I want all my letters to be correct here. Located at, that's going to be your address here. Let's see, 123 Main Street, Gainesville, Georgia, 30506. So you want the full address here. The other thing is when you're doing these, if you'll see, there's different font sizes and different fonts. You want to make sure that all of that is the same. Okay, guys, in a regular wholesale deal, generally what you're doing is you're getting a property under contract, like what we're talking about, and you're actually assigning the contract to an end cash buyer. Okay, so in a wholesale deal, you're getting it under contract for this price, and you're selling it at a higher price to an end buyer. Okay, now I want to help here with a little bit of terminology for you guys. When you are wholesaling, you are not selling a house. You are selling the equitable interest in the property. The equitable interest in the property is obtained by putting it under contract, okay? Only licensed individuals in real estate can sell real estate for someone else, okay? So I see a lot of people that are fairly new to this business, and they're like, hey, I got a house to sell for an investor. You do not have a house for sale. You have the equitable interests in a contract to sell, okay? So just want to make sure everybody understands that. So this assignability part, this contract is fully assignable. This is what allows you to assign your equitable interest to an end buyer, which means you never close on the property. You're a line item on a settlement statement, just as anything else on a settlement statement. So that's where your funds are going to come from, is an assignment fee. Okay. So if you are assigning your contracts, this cannot be removed. Okay. Because this is what's giving you the ability to do so. Now, for those of you at Partner Driven, if we are pre-listing the property onto the MLS to procure a buyer, and we'll get into this later on in this contract, this actual sentence can be taken out because we are not assigning properties. We are double closing properties. Okay. So I want everybody to kind of understand what things you can and can't take out of these contracts. Purchase price. That's where you're going to enter the amount here. So let's say I'm buying this property for $100,000. Okay. To be paid in US funds. Put a period here. Terms, cash at closing. Guys, that's just something thrown in there because we tell people we pay in all cash. But either way, guys, on here, they're going to get the same type of funds, whether you're paying cash or whether it's a loan anyway. They're still going to get money deposited into their account. Now, here's one of the most important things inside of a contract. So remember, I was telling all y'all about sometimes the terms in the contract are as important as the price itself. So during a contract, there is something called a contingency period, a property inspection period. You'll hear it referred to as DD or due diligence. This is the amount of time that you have to have the property inspected and the time that you have to back out of the contract. Okay, so let's go through this. Property inspection. Buyer, and obviously if there's no number here, then this paragraph is not applicable. So you definitely want to make sure you put a number here. Buyer, at buyer's expense, that would be you, shall have blank business days after the inspection hereof to have the property and all improvements, fixtures, and equipment inspected. Seller shall cooperate in making the property reasonably available for such inspections. Okay, so I want to put 30 here. Now, why would I want to put 30 here? So 30 days, okay, is the amount of time that I have if I'm wholesaling to find another buyer. Also, if I'm buying, fixing, and selling a house, that gives me a little bit longer to have all of my inspections done. Now, I did add this little word here, which is business days. I did slide that in. Because what that does is that gives you a whole nother 2, 4, 6, 8 more days in your property inspection period had that word not been there. Okay. It's also saying that the seller shall cooperate in making the property reasonably available. Okay. Now, buyer agrees to indemnify and hold seller harmless from any injury or damage caused by such inspections. So let's say you're going out to inspect a house, right? And the floor is wonky and you fall through the floor. You're holding the seller harmless of any injury to yourself. Does that make sense? If the buyer is not satisfied with the condition of the property as disclosed by such inspections, buyer may terminate this contract by delivering a written notice of termination to the seller within the time frame set forth in this paragraph. Okay, so that's referring back to those 30 business days in which you can terminate this contract inside of those days by delivering a written notice of termination. Buyer's due diligence period does not start until the day of inspection. Why does this matter? So like for instance, let's say you put a property under contract and it's tenant occupied. Okay. And you've agreed on a price, you've seen the outside, but you've got to be able to get in there to see the house, right? Well, what if the seller has a hard time getting the tenant to let you in? Well, if what that's doing is that's eating up all of your inspection period. So what we're saying is that the period does not even start until the day of the actual inspection. I'm actually working on a deal right now with someone, and we put the property under contract because the lady needs to move from Florida to Alabama. Unfortunately, her daughter's sick, so she needs to sell her house quickly. So she left and went to Alabama last week. So we haven't been able to see the house yet. Well, she called and said, hey, I'm going to have to be here a couple more weeks. I got some things to take care of. Of course, we were like, no, that's no problem. But our inspection period does not start until we go and inspect this house. Okay. So that's really important. So if you're using any other contracts, really try to make sure that you make sure it has such a stipulation just like this one. Okay. Closing costs, fees, and charges. Buyer, which is you, is responsible for the owner's title policy, title search policy, title search charges, recording, and any other fees needed to secure the title. So this is closing costs here. So I'm saying we're paying all the closing costs. Buyer, which is us, is responsible for buyer's inspection, buyer's attorney's fees, and all property related insurance, HOA, condo, initiation, and transfer fees. Seller is responsible for documentary stamp taxes and surtaxes on deeds. Seller's attorney fees and HOA condo estoppel fees. Okay, so yeah, that was a mouthful, right? So we're saying to you that we will pay all of the closing fees, but we are not going to pay your taxes. Like, let me give you an instance here. There are transfer taxes in a lot of states. So the seller always pays their own taxes. In the state of Florida, again, they do not have state income tax. So when you sell a property in the state of Florida, there is a tax that is owed to the state of Florida. I believe it's 95% of 1% of the actual sales price of the home. So if you sold it for $100,000, they're going to be responsible for, I believe, about $950 to pay for those particular taxes. Okay. So on $1 million house, that's a lot of money, right? So you want to make sure that they understand. And it's easily when you say, well, we pay all the closing costs, but I'm not paying your taxes for you, right? So that's where we are there. Title insurance, again, laid out, will be paid by the buyer. Taxes will be prorated to the date of sale, and buyer will be given a credit at closing for any and all paid real estate taxes together with any penalties and interest. Okay. So they're responsible for their taxes. So generally people will prepay the year before. So like I paid my 2021 property taxes already in November. So if I were to sell my house today, then I would actually get a credit back at closing because I've already paid the taxes. So, but the buyer is responsible for the taxes from today till December the 31st. So whatever the closing date is, you're responsible for January 1st to today's date. Anything from this date after is going to be the buyer's responsibility. Seller will provide marketable title via a general warranty deed with release of title to buyer or buyers to sign a free and clear of all liens unless otherwise noted. Seller is responsible for costs associated with the deed stamp. Okay, so you're telling the seller here at this point that, hey, we've got to have a clean and clear title. Okay, so you're responsible for paying for anything to clear that up. So like if I were buying a house for $100,000 and let's say that they had a $20,000 tax lien on the property, but they own the property free and clear. That means they would have to, out of their proceeds of 100,000, 20,000 of that is going to go to pay that lien off. The other 80,000 will be what they walk away with minus their taxes. Okay. You're also saying that both parties have an opportunity to seek legal counsel and advise them in this transaction. Broker representation. Both parties warrant they are not represented in this transaction by a licensed real estate broker or agent, and no funds from the sale of this will be paid to a licensed real estate broker and or agent. Okay, because you're looking to buy this directly from the homeowner. So you're not using a realtor to buy it. You're not using your state associated contract. This is a contract between you and the seller. The parties agree that the closing will take place on or before blank business days. I usually put 45 days here. Now, so when you're looking at your due diligence and your inspection period and your closing date, the inspection period is inside of the 45 days. You will close on or before 45 days, but 30 of those days or whatever number you put there is inside of the closing date. So if I were to say, okay, well, I need to close in 30 days, okay, and a 15-day inspection period, you can change these numbers around depending on the situation. But again, like I said, these particular days allow you more time. And again, sometimes that is more important than anything else. Okay. Fixtures. This sale shall include any and all fixtures to the property included, but not limited to the heating and air conditioning equipment, built-in appliance, curtain rods, attached carpeting, attached mirrors and lights, screens, storm doors, garage door openers, TV reception systems, outbuilding and exterior plants and trees, except as follows. So any of you that are licensed individuals, I'll tell you, it seems like about a third of your class is on this particular subject, on what is a fixture and what is not. Okay. If it is attached to the home, that is a fixture. So why does this matter so much? So the best way for me to explain it to you is through a deal. I was doing a deal one time and I was going to buy the property. And this is another good piece of advice. If I went and seen that property, you always go by that property and do a walkthrough before you close on the deal, because we had an agreement. We had everything working for us. So I stopped by there before the closing date. And guess what happened? This dude took out, he took out the stove, the dishwasher, like ceiling fans, all sorts of stuff, because he put those things in that house, so he wanted to take them. Well, obviously that's a problem for me, right? That's a problem for me, because now if I were to buy that house I got to go in and now replace all of those things. I'm not doing that. Okay. So I went back to the seller and I went to closing and I'm like, listen, I'm taking $10,000 right off the top of this. I'm taking 10,000 off the top of this purchase price, or I'm not closing today, because in your contract, you signed and agreed not to take any of the fixtures in the home. Okay. And he had to do that because by the time I replaced those and paid somebody to replace those, I was like 10 grand worth of stuff he took out of the house. Now, here's another scenario where you might want to insert something here. Another deal I was doing, they had a chandelier in the house. The chandelier was in the family. So they told me, hey, that chandelier has been in my family. Can we have that? And I'm like, absolutely. I mean, that chandelier, it was nice, but it didn't have a personal effect to me like it did them. So essentially, I just put chandelier in living room area. Okay. So you can put that in the contract if they're going to take those things with them. All representations and warranties of the parties are set forth in this contract and shall survive the closing. There are no representations or agreements of the parties that have not been incorporated into this agreement. The seller and all provisions hereof shall be binding upon to ensure to benefit the parties hereto and their prospective heirs, executors, administrators, legal representatives, and successors and permitted assigns. So that's saying they can't come back on you later and say that everybody that has say so in this house hasn't came forth, right? Okay. Now, here is my favorite part of the contract. Okay. This is where this is what allows us to do a lot of the things that we do. Okay. So, and if you are wholesaling, you could not remove a marketing clause. This is them giving you the authorization to market their property to other investors. Otherwise, if you don't have a marketing clause in there, you're illegally selling a house. And remember what I said, if you are not licensed, you cannot sell other people's homes. Okay. So you're selling the rights to the equitable interest in your property. Marketing. Investor is authorized, to market and advertise a property for sale in any media of the investor's choosing, including but not limited to the internet. Seller also grants the investor to retain a licensed real estate broker of its choice to list and market the property through any multiple listing services in an attempt to procure a buyer for the property in cooperation with other real estate brokers, investors, and individual buyers. Seller authorizes the investor's broker to advertise the property for sale. We literally spell it out exactly what we're doing. So whenever I do hire a licensed brokerage or an agent that works for the broker, then what I'm doing is I am signing a listing agreement between my company that's on this contract and their brokerage. Okay. Now, once we do that, then I cannot assign a property with a real estate agent or broker. Okay. Because I have to double close. So I have to take complete title of the property to then turn around and resell it the same exact day or the next day. That way, the agent and or broker is following the rules because they're actually selling a house for me. So they couldn't close on this house with a buyer and assign it because the listing agreement is not between them and the actual seller of the property. Okay. Under special stipulations, this is where you would add any special stipulations, like mine normally is property will be delivered vacant unless otherwise noted. If I'm keeping a tenant in the property, then I wouldn't have that in there. Okay. Closing to be handled by TBA. You always, when you're doing a deal, you always want to control your title company and or your attorney. Okay. Not all states use title companies. Some states are attorney states. I live in Georgia. We just so happen to be an attorney state like New York. is parts of New York is an attorney state. So a title company cannot close properties here in Georgia, only a real estate attorney can. But like most places in the US, you go to a title company for a closing. Buyer, that would be your signature, or if you're with partner driven, that would be ours. Seller. This is really important, guys. Anybody that is on the title of this house has to sign this. So for this particular contract, John and Anita Smith has to sign this contract. Okay. This will, you can't just have John Smith sign this contract because Anita didn't give authorization to sell. So it would never work out. I learned this one the hard way too, because I had a husband and wife, and the husband signed the contract, and he's like, oh yeah, my wife agrees to it. And this was very, very early on. I was brand new. And he's like, oh yeah, she agrees to it. And I just didn't think nothing about it later. And he's like, well, we'll show up for closing. Well, you know what? Guess who didn't show up for closing? Nobody. Because the closing attorney was like, hey, this is not even an executed contract because the other person didn't sign. If it is an LLC, okay, you're going to, if the property is in an LLC, you're going to need to look at the LLC's operating agreement to see who is in the operating agreement. Okay. So that is the basics of this contract. I know we went over a lot. Sorry guys, I'm sweating. My air conditioner froze up upstairs. So I'm like dying up here. So Gordon wants to know, Delaware is an attorney state. What if the property is in a trust? A trust is a business. Okay. You're still going to need to look at the operating agreement of the trust to see who's authorized to sign, because there'll be different people that are authorized to sign. If there are, if it's in a trust and the trust has been given to 6 people, all 6 of those relatives have to sign. Okay. Now, what I am going to do, Peter, if it's okay, I know I went over a lot. So there's this thing on here called a raise hand feature. A raise hand feature. If you raise your Zoom hand, what I'll do is I'll allow you to come on here live with Peter and I and ask any questions that you may have. And let's please keep it contract associated so that we value everybody's time on here. So only contract questions will I be taking right now, because I definitely value everybody's time, especially at 7, 8 o'clock at night for a lot of people.
Julie, is it also okay if they type a question into chat?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so either type it in, and I know we got a bunch of questions already raised, so let's go.
All right, once I allow you to talk, then you need to unmute yourself. Okay, Jojo, I just allowed you to talk. Please unmute yourself. Okay, Jojo, you're ready. Just unmute yourself. Okay,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I wanted to know if I signed up with partner as a LLC, and I'm a single member LLC, would I be able to sign as the buyer under the LLC? You've addressed the selling property being in a LLC, but what if I want to buy it in a LLC with Peter? How does that work?
So if you're a partner, Jojo,
Mm-hmm.
then we're buying it in our LLC. Okay, so Peter's signature will come to you, because once you request the contract from the office, we will send it to you I don't know what the word for it, pre-executed. Yes. And our agreement, our agreement that we have to do the 50%, split, that's taken care of with the actual agreement to join partner driven.
Okay, if I am aware of a property right now that is coming out of an inheritance and none of the kids want it, but I'm not yet signed up for the program. Can that be used as the first property to initiate the payment?
No, it cannot.
Okay,
And I don't, it takes a lot of time and effort with our staff to make all this stuff happen. So that's just part of the game. So, but now, like, you got me interested now. So it's an inherited property. Have they been through probate yet?
no, there's no probate. They told the bank to just go ahead and foreclose it, and the bank's in the process of doing it. I happen to know this property very well. Not a lot of investment is needed to turn it around to put it back on market.
Do you know how much they owe on it?
I know everything about it, Julie. I can talk to you off camera.
Hey, will you send her my cell phone number? I'll help you on this deal, okay?
Okay.
But they're gonna have to go through probate before you can buy this house anyway. My question is, huh?
There is no probate, no executor, anything. The
I
bank
know,
is
but
just gonna own it.
I get what you're saying, but for them to walk away with money for you to buy it, they have got to probate the will.
There is no will to probate.
Okay, I got you. They have to probate it anyway, even if there is no will. So they have to change the ownership from the people that died to the heirs.
Actually, they've decided they didn't want that, and
I know that. That's the only way this is going to work, though.
well, the bank is gonna be owning it, pretty
Hey,
soon.
Text me and we'll talk about it, because you're leaving
Sure.
money on the table, and I guarantee you, I can help you talk to these. I can tell you how they can walk away with a little bit of money in their pocket instead of just giving a house back to a bank.
I went over all that with them and they didn't want anything to do with it. That's why I thought maybe it would be a good flip.
Yeah, if they don't agree though, then we can't do anything, hun.
We'll talk about it
Okay.
offline. Thank you very much.
No, thank you.
Okay.
All right. Ed asked me a question. Do I give the seller a copy of the contract? Absolutely. I generally email it to them after I leave the appointment. And Gordon's right. They should seek legal counsel for the disposition of that property. All right.
Are you still hearing me?
I am, but I'm gonna have to take some more
How do
questions.
how do I get off so somebody else can?
I'll mute you on, hun.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Any other questions, guys? Just raise your Zoom hand. And I'll bring you on, or put you in the, or if you want to put it in the chat. Otherwise, that's all I got, guys. If anybody, let me ask you, did this help you guys tonight understand these contracts a little bit more?
By the way, Julie, there are more questions.
Okay. I think the heat's making me lose my mind.
Yes, Stevens Shepherd. I don't know how to bring these people on.
Okay, so I just allowed you to talk. If you would, just unmute yourself, hun.
Yes, can you hear me?
I can.
Yes, let's say you have a house under contract. Do you have to show the buyer the contract?
No. You're talking about like if you're wholesaling a contract to the end buyer and they want to see your contract?
Yes. Do you have to, if I got a house on the contract, like a wholesale contract, do I have to show that buyer that what I'm buying it for?
No, you don't, but he's gonna know exactly what you're buying it for.
I wouldn't know that.
Well, because what's gonna happen is number one, you have it under contract, right? That's
Yes.
your contract.
Okay.
There's another contract, which is a purchase agreement between that buyer and you. Okay.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah.
Now, once that happens at closing, there's an assignment contract. Okay. And the assignment contract literally says that you're assigning this property and making this amount of money. Also, because you never close on this house and you're assigning the contract between you and the end buyer, they're going to see it right on the settlement statement. But a real investor does not care what you make. I mean, I don't count other people's money. It's either a deal or it ain't a deal. You know what I mean?
Right. But I'm just trying to save myself not going to jail or anything, because I want to make sure that everything is right. And if I did say, if I'm being trustworthy, like building my clientele, let's say I'm building my clientele and everybody know that I'm doing wholesaling, I want to be able to know that the seller is knowing that I'm trustworthy to work with them. And I want to know that the buyer is knowing that I'm trustworthy to work with them. So if they come together, let's say they come together for some reason, they come together, and they're in the room with me and I got the contract, do both have to know each other or something like that? Do they have to know what the contract all about?
So generally what's going to happen is that the closing table, they don't normally put you and all of you guys at the table together. Okay.
Okay.
And if they do, it doesn't matter. They're not, if you agreed with a seller that you're going to buy their house for 100,000, right? And they get their 100,000, they're not going to walk away.
Okay. Okay. That sounds good. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And two, like our attorney, they know, have the buyer sign docs first. Okay.
Okay.
And then a couple hours later, you'll have the seller sign, or vice versa. So they're never sitting in front of each other.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
And hon, you don't even got to go to closings.
Can you do it like over the online, like documents? You can have them to sign it on.
Because you're assigning the contract,
You
don't have to go to closing.
Okay.
They're gonna get all of your information, and you're a line item on the settlement statement. They're just gonna send you the money.
Okay. Oh, gotcha. Man, that's a lot. When you got to think about it, it's a lot to do at one time, though, because
it is.
I'm not going to think about the double closing right now. I'm just going to think about getting a contract.
And hey, I'm going to pitch something real quick though, if you don't mind.
Okay, go ahead.
At Partner Driven, we do all this for you, man.
Okay.
We handle all the contracts. We have closing coordinators. We would want you to just focus on going out and getting the deals. We handle all that stuff. So you'll never get in this issue. But obviously that's my company. So I'm always going to push that step. So
Yeah.
but yeah, good luck to you, man. Okay.
Okay. I appreciate you. I'll be calling back because I do want to work with y'all. I do really want to do that.
Call that number 770-746-8585.
Okay.
And see if you can work out with them.
Okay. All right. I sure will.
All right, man. Look forward to seeing you on the training calls. Oh, and before we answer some more, for all of you partners, guess what tomorrow morning is at 9 a.m. It's Fun with Numbers Day with me. So we're going to be going over what you should be putting contracts under, what makes a deal a deal. So for all of you that are partners on this call, do not miss Fun with Numbers tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right. Thank you. I got Karen and Carl. If you will, I'll ask you to unmute yourself. Hello. I know you guys know how to unmute yourself. Karen and Carl. I know these guys, y'all, so I'm not just picking
Yeah, there we go. Can you hear me now?
Uh-huh.
All right. The question I have is, does the homeowner have to go to the closing?
Yes.
The homeowner does. We don't have to, but the homeowner does.
The homeowner does, yes. And
Okay.
unless a mobile notary is sent to them.
And that causes money, right?
That does cost money. It just costs extra in closing. But see, that's part about working with you. So like, do you know, like, let's say you and Karen were going to go buy a house in Georgia, right?
Yeah.
And no, I'm sorry. Let's say that the seller lived in Georgia and they have a house up there where you guys live.
Well, that's the problem that we're running into.
Okay.
The seller is in Texas and doesn't want to go to closing.
Okay. Listen, Mary handles all this, Carl. Well, Partner Driven is going to talk to the the attorney and or the title company, they will get all their docs together. They will literally send a mobile notary to their house.
Okay,
They
All
don't
right.
go up there for a closing.
okay, all right. That was a question that Karen asked me this afternoon. I says, of course, I'm pretty sure that Julie said before that the homeowner does have to go or pay for they pay for the notary, right? The homeowner does.
No,
Well,
it's
do
part
we?
of, it's part of closing costs, so we would be paying for that.
Okay, all right, that's where I was getting
Yeah.
confused. Okay,
Because I always do that because I just want to make it quick and simple for somebody and not
Okay.
make it difficult. It's not
It's
much
cheap.
money, is it? Like $7,500.
okay, all righty. I'll tell Karen so she can let the homeowner know and hopefully they'll go with us.
Yeah, and just tell them they never have to leave. We'll send somebody to them.
All righty, thank you.
Yes. Let's see if we have any more hands raised. I'm not seeing any more. I've got a couple questions in the chat. Monica says, I'm in lending. Can I put in a cash offer for a buyer, then sell it to him? In other words, they are financed with a bank, but due to the market, they keep getting beat out of the offers from cash offers. Can I make the offer cash, buy the house, then turn around and sell it to my client that's financed by the bank? Is it going to be an FHA, VA loan, or is it a conventional loan? Because if they have a conventional loan, technically you could, but you couldn't assign the contract. Okay. You'd have to close it in cash and then turn around and sell it. And the only loan product that will allow you to do that is a conventional loan. The other loan products have a 91-day seasoning period from the time you buy it till you can close on that property. So you'd have to hold it for 91 days if they have an FHA or a VA with your product. So it'd have to be a conventional loan product. And obviously I wouldn't do that unless I was making some money, by the way. But that's just me, Monica. Have I ever paid the transfer tax? Yes, I have. I always tell the seller that they're going to pay all the taxes, but if it's a deal breaker, then, and the numbers work, I don't care. I'll pay it. Does she have a real estate license? I don't know who you're referring to, Gordy. I think Monica is in lending. All right, well, guys, I think that's all the questions that we have now. Well, one more. We'll take Michelle.
Hey, Julie. Hey, Peter. How are y'all doing?
Hey, Michelle.
Good. I just wanted to find out if you all could answer a question because now it's got me thinking. It was from Kenneth from earlier, and I'm trying to scroll up real quick because I'm now having to use my phone, and I'm learning how to do this whole app. Quick second. It was in regards to a spouse. Okay, it's from Kenneth, and I was trying to see if Kenneth would ask.
I've got it. If the sellers are husband and wife, and one of the
Yes.
spouses pass away, how would death certificate come into play? This is different in each state. It's the right of successorship, but like here in Georgia, if a husband and a wife are on the title, okay, and the wife passes away, then the husband does have all rights to that property, but that is not in every state. You have to check those laws out. Generally, what's going to happen almost in most all cases is the husband would need to go through probate.
So the probate still comes into play. Got it.
In most states. So you have to just know. I wish I knew the answer for every state, but I just don't.
That's just basically finding out from your individual state that you're working in. That makes sense.
You could call your local title company. They'll be able to answer that.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you for answering that question. I appreciate y'all.
No problems. Thank you. Thank you.
No, thank you.
All right. Let's see. Anything else? Also, if it is a community property or an equity distribution, I'm not really sure what that means there, hon. Well, all right. Well, that's all we've got for this evening. I don't see any more questions, but guys, thank you so much for being on tonight. We really appreciate it. I hope tonight helped you. I hope you learned something. But I will tell you, we told you some scary stories about contracts, but don't be afraid of them. Don't be afraid of them. And don't let being afraid of them stop you from doing this business either. Okay. But knowledge is one thing that is always going to get you to where you want to be. Okay. So understand these things in the contract, study them. It's not just about not getting in trouble. It's about having credibility with a seller. If you don't know how to answer questions about a contract, then why are they going to want to trust you with you purchasing their home? Okay. That's why knowing contract is important. So, all right. Peace out, y'all. Have a beautiful Tuesday night.
Thanks, Julie.
Bye.